Hello, everyone. This is Broadcast. It's Tuesday morning after the first Sunday this weekend of not being able to meet for any of our churches in person. So what we thought we'd do is just come online and have a bit of a chat about how it went, a bit of a debrief, look at different things that different people might want to do going forward. So I'm Tom, and I've got with me Colin and Tim. All three of us are part of Christ Church Manchester. So we'll just have a chat about how the Sunday went for us, and then if you're on this and want to ask any questions, just jump into the chat, type them in there, and we'll have a bit of a discussion. So I'll start by just going to Tim. And Tim, why don't you just tell everyone who's listening to this a bit about what we did and how we played it on Sunday?
Well, we in normal life, Christ Church Manchester has 6 Sunday meetings in 5 different locations, and all of those vary somewhere between 20 people and 70 people, with a variety of adults and kids in the room, and so our all of our locations, all of our sites are quite community driven, quite community focused. We work really hard on making our Sundays, I don't know the right language, content-wise, to be good. Like, we work hard on having good worship times together, and we work really hard on training our preachers and trying to give people teaching which will grow them and be good for them and is of good quality. And so I think we took all of that into thinking, how do we do online church? How do we do church where we can't be in the same room together? And I think actually we're trying to pitch at something which holds on to all of those things, and particularly the community thing. We felt just in our discussions in the week before, actually, what people needed actually was to feel connected more than anything else. Definitely in the initial phases, and actually that's probably true. The longer we're in lockdown, the more connected we're going to need to feel, aren't we? Yeah. So that's the long way of saying we decided to do Zoom webinars where there were 3 or 4 people kind of hosting, one of whom would be the anchor person. One would do a preach, like a 15 to 20 minute preach. And then the others would do a variety of kind of announcements and community news and praying together. And it was more in that vibe, I suppose. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And the format of the Zoom is just like what we're on now. So
yes,
it's the same software that we're using to do this. There's the 3 of us on, bouncing around, a bit of conversation, and other people could engage with the chat. So exactly the same tool that we used on Sundays. So Colin, having now experienced that for the first time for a Sunday meeting, what are your first thoughts on how it went?
Well, first of all, I was pleased how many people logged in. So I would think we managed, looking at it, to engage, a good number. We've got 300 adults. Obviously, they're in couples, some of them. So I think a good majority came on. So that, first of all, I was very pleased with that. We just slightly staggered our times so that we could use the software better across. So that worked okay. So I as an overview and first comment, I was reasonably pleased with how it went.
Great, thanks. So Tim was saying about community being one of the big targets that we were going for. It absolutely was. What were some of the bits of it that you thought really did well on that and that built people in that community sense?
For me, on one of them we had one of the worship leaders who often anchors had a baby there, and so that was just fun to see them, hear them. I think having a bit of interaction really helped. I think the chat box. I think also being able to have congregations, as Tim said, maximum probably 70 people, actually did allow a lot of people to engage. So I think setting the stall out of what we could achieve and what was our kind of top level, being community more than anything else, and actually engaging our pastors and our site leaders so that they actually could engage, was I think probably our number one kind of goal, which and we'll talk about it in a little bit, I guess, but that was against doing something a bit more slick centrally to everybody, almost like a pre-recorded.
Yeah, definitely. So Tim, last week was quite a full-on week. Going from it was about a week ago. Was it a week and a day ago that we first got the advice given not to do meetings in public. Obviously, a lot more things have happened since then in terms of the government instructions. But it was Monday of last week that I think I was watching the news and texting and saying, "Hey, we need to change some things up." Just describe what last week was like for us as a church then, and what things we put in place. Colin mentioned like training stuff, getting other people bought in, and what were some of the priorities that we looked to do last week?
Well, we realised, I think, that because community was important, and we wanted to think beyond just holding it together and think, okay, well, how do we actually just grow? Not just number. In fact, more importantly, how do we grow in kind of community and maturity and in Jesus together? And so I think we thought, right, let's just get around as many of our leaders as we can and get them bought into this idea. So we, on the Tuesday evening, got all of our site leaders together and on Zoom, and just help them to see, actually, our community groups are really important. Let's get around all the community group leaders. Let's work out ways that we can kind of have a touch point with every person in the church. So the internet is brilliant and actually covers most people. In fact, it probably covers more people than we realize. We always think, oh, some people are going to struggle with this. And actually, I've been surprised at how easily people have got on. But there are still people right on the fringe. It's just a difficult thing to do. I had to, on Saturday, I drove across Manchester to show someone how to press one button on an app. And he was trying to explain it to me on the phone. I thought, I know, if I was there, I could have this done in 3. So I drove across town and showed him how to do it. So so we realized we needed to find a way that everybody could touch base real quick. So having the site leaders together, then we have on the Thursday we had a kind of a future site leaders training evening, which we had planned in anyway. We just thought, right, let's just use that opportunity. We need as many of our leaders and people with influence to be on board and kind of disseminating almost our desire, what we wanted to achieve, how we wanted to help people, how to get it out as quick as we could. There was a lot of screen time last week, that's for sure. I think I had any number of screen-related headaches at the end of the days. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd have days when I was just saying to the family, I'm sick of Zoom. Like, I just want, and now we're just not being on my computer. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's the need of the season, isn't it?
It is.
Yes. So, one of the things you majored on there was getting around the community groups, and my impression from the ones that I've seen and spoken to is they seem to have jumped into this new way of doing things pretty well. Do you want to just tell everyone what we're doing around that?
It's similar to Sundays, really. Instead of using webinars, we'll use meetings. So we put together a few documents, effectively, how to run a Sunday meeting and how to run a community group online, and just try to get in contact with as many people as possible, give people as many options as possible, and some guidance. So some people are very kind of adept at certain pieces of software. So Skype is very useful on group calls. Actually, Facebook, they do group video as well. Most community groups we found were already kind of organizing themselves on WhatsApp anyway, but encouraging some of those who are technologically a bit behind the curve to get on WhatsApp. and you know, use those sort of opportunities to make contact with people. We try to get kind of in the process of trying to put together content for people to use if they want to as well. I think training somebody how running a kind of community group meeting online is quite different to your front room. It sounds glaringly obvious, but in the front room, you can just kind of, conversation can amble quite nicely. And it's once you're used to each other and you've eaten together, it can be quite relaxed, and things can kind of wander in actually quite a productive and useful way. But online, you actually have to be a little bit more bossy and call people out a little bit to make comment, and realizing that actually most people are quite happy to do that as well. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, no, I'm you know, it is a different technique. I was interested, one of our student groups, they did their meeting, and then they were saying that afterwards that quite a few stayed on for like, it was like a normal evening, and just ambled away, but made it very clear what was the meeting and when that finished. Making meetings a little shorter, I think, is helpful. I mean, the other thing is, I mean, Mary and myself with another couple are starting a Saturday group up with just numbers of people who were not in groups. We have quite a high kind of group level activity in terms of buy-in, but this is just kind of pushes you to gather those who are shift workers and all sorts of other workers that just struggled. So we've pushed a Saturday morning one. I think we've got 15 people maybe.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's a really, I found it really exciting when I heard that like, even with all the questions to ask about how do we do the normal stuff of church life, to hear that there's pioneering and moving forwards in things as well. So that was really, really good and really important. Just to kind of move on a little bit to another bit of church life, which is kind of pastoral. Like, obviously there's a lot of people having different kinds of needs at the moment. Colin, you're someone who currently is stuck at home, isolated a bit, but so you've experienced people getting around you a bit. Would you share a bit of like how people have rallied around you and what things you've seen helpful to serve others as well?
Yeah, no, people, first of all, joined the club actually from last night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the last couple of weeks back to self-isolate. So it's quite interesting. Having been completely out the picture for the first week, this last week, it's like I'm in the epicenter of all conversations. It's quite, so that's quite strange. Yeah, I mean, lots of people are all, I mean, even today, Mary's got a text. Someone's taking their car for an MOT, would you believe? The doctor has to get the car back on the road, otherwise can't do the job. Instead of calling past LD, what would you like? And that's happened numbers of times. One of our site leaders was getting a parcel the other day, and the delivery man said, when he realised what that it was being self-isolated, said, "Would you like me to go and get you some shopping?" This is, which I mean, just great, isn't it? I mean, just amazingly good. So yeah, I mean, I think definitely people are stepping up and looking out for people and asking the question, I think, pretty consistently. So I'm really pleased with that.
I've noticed the same thing. In the congregation that I lead, there's a chap who he's been advised to do the 12 weeks kind of no contact, and just at the same time his internet is down as well, so it's really tough for him. And like some of the young guys in the group, they just set up like a Facebook chat to be like, look, let's all just let each other know when we've called him, when we've spoken to him, how he's doing, and then we can all see he's not going like days without anyone contacting him. Like someone else messaged me saying like, oh, I'd love to do some Bible study with him over the phone, and just kind of really encouraging seeing people rallying around and looking out for the needs that people have. So yeah, I think it's a good time for the church to step up, and seems to be doing that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I noticed as well is the different people that are raising their game. So I actually believe there'll be a load more leaders emerge through this, that actually people who kind of just were in the background a bit, worked hard, but actually you can see them, coming to the forefront. And I think even on some of our Zoom calls, we're getting different people in because we're trying to make them community based, especially our Sunday meetings. And it's really fascinating, the people who are rising to the challenge and who are doing well. And you think, oh, publicly, they're very good. And also taking initiatives. I mean, numbers of people are taking initiatives like getting groups together and stuff. So for me, that's an exciting, spin-off and of what we're doing.
Yeah, very good. So having done one Sunday, we've had a go at the way that seemed right to us initially.
Actually, Tom, just to be helpful for people to know, what was our how did we structure that Sunday?
Yes, the way we did it is we had a pretty short meeting for each of our congregations. So we have 6, and they all had their own meeting with people from that site on the call. It was quite chat-based, so the host would just engage a couple of other people who were on video screens, and then others still on comments. There was some teaching, like a shorter sermon than we'd have most Sundays. So we had about 15 minutes of a sermon, and then some chat around it. So it was a sermon into conversation around the themes and passages that have been brought up. And then there was like an extended prayer time at the end as well. So that's what we went for. I'd be interested to just get your thoughts on having done that once. Sort of what are the tweaks and developments that if we're going to be in this for a while, that we're thinking could hone it a bit. Tim, do you want to kick off there?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I think there'll be some things that we'll need to build in to our content. It's strange language, isn't it? Our teaching program, what we want people to learn. The Sunday meetings that we do may not be the best place for that. But thinking about that particular Sunday service, I suppose, I mean, lots of people, I think, want some sort of worship, like sung worship, shall we say. So we will need to kind of work out how to do that. And it's just a basic tech issue, I think, probably, and a bit of knowledge and know-how, which I think we can, but I think we just need to try and have a go at a few of those things. So I think helping people to worship together will be a good next step. And I think maybe I was pretty happy. The first one I did, I had 3 screens, and on one of the screens there was a couple on it, so there was 4 of us on. And then in the evening one I did, there was 3 screens with just 3 individuals. And the morning one, I noticed, as I thought back on it, just conversation popped a little bit more. It was just a bit easier with that extra voice. And if we're going to do kind of Bible study and then conversation after it, if one of those people has just preached, it's hard for them to then discuss what they talked about. I think so it's a slightly odd thing. I found myself maybe being tempted to kind of re-preach parts of it, which I was holding myself back from. But so so I think having the extra person in for us, I think probably would be a good step if we can do that. What would you say, Colin?
Yeah, I had 4 people on mine because I had a couple in the morning, and it definitely helped. So I mean that I say wasn't totally planned because we had 3 screens, 4 people. But straight afterwards, I thought actually we should go to 4 screens, getting another one in. There's always a kind of trade-off between having too many people on and it getting confusing for people. But I think so. I think that would work. I spoke in the morning, and we do this quite regular anyway because of broadcasts. So reasonably used to it, but still, I was surprised how nervous I felt. I probably trying to cram too much into trying to do a 3-pointer. And I realized actually we did quite a lot of training with our preachers for special occasions like weddings, etc. And because we try and help people to say, okay, it's a different thing, it's a shorter, you need to capture your congregation. And I actually thought I need to kind of revisit how I do weddings and kind of adapt. It's a 1-pointer, really, not a 3. It's just a different, because it is a bit shorter, and that is a bit of a challenge for some people who are looking for a half-hour preach. And I think we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I think we're going to have to do that in a different format. It's hard to get community interaction. We're trying to do a different thing, really.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that we were reflecting on it earlier was kids as well. So a lot of our congregations, we have a kids provision on Sundays, like pretty good kids work going on. And in terms of the things we did this Sunday, we just had the one thing really that was for anyone, but starting to talk about what can we do for kids and having like perhaps another time that kids can come on and have some community with each other, and resourcing parents and things like that are kind of another developmental step in this that we're looking at. Anyone got any more thoughts on things you want to see or grow in or develop before we move it on?
I think it was interesting, Colin's comment there about some people are looking for the half-hour sermon. And actually, just been thinking about it this morning, actually that would be true even in the normal worlds. Some people turn up at church and they're very focused on hearing the preach, and that's really important to them. Some people will turn up and they 5 minutes after the sermon they couldn't tell you anything that was said, but they love to be with the people. And actually both of those groups have something to offer to each other, don't they? And maybe we're seeing that slightly highlighted again as you change the format. It brings those kind of thoughts out to the fore. It's just an interesting thing. Sorry.
What about you? You were talking this morning, Tim, earlier on about one of the sites, the children's provision. Just thinking, what the ideas?
Yeah. I mean, one of our morning meetings is probably the one with the most kids actually, and quite a broad range of kids as well, up to teenagers. And so there are 2 people in the church who really wanted to do something for them. So I think we'll do a 9 o'clock, probably a Skype call just for those kids so they can see each other and have some sort of interaction with each other. And I got quite excited when they suggested that. And I was like, oh, we can open it out to all the kids across all the sites of CCM. And I was shouted down quite quickly. No, they were just very keen that actually the kids can have some sort of interaction with each other, people that they're actually friends with and will be friends with afterwards, as opposed to kids from other sites where it doesn't matter so much. So I think that'll be really good. Actually, I think that's a really good idea, and we're going to make that happen on Sunday.
Yeah. Cool. So we've talked about Sunday and how it went. I think an important thing for us, and actually for any church who's listening in on this, is we had one Sunday at it, and we didn't have a lot of time to figure out what to do. I think we could have a lot of patience and grace with ourselves as we're trying to work all these things through, and know that we do the best we can straight away, and then we'll tweak it as we go and get it better. And I think our congregations know that and are happy to go on that journey with us. And I don't think we should feel pressure if we're kind of adding things 2, 3, 4 weeks in, or 6 months in. You never know, but just keep growing and doing the best we can. Talk to us a bit about Easter. We've been chatting about that. It's not far away, and I think we're talking about something a little bit different and bigger than what we have done up till now. So do you want to one of you just let us know the current state of play with our thoughts on that?
Well, Easter, we have done for a few years now a Good Friday service in the evening, Friday evening, which has just been really popular with our people, but also with visitors as well. People bring guests, and actually, it's been a really good, well-run service. So we talked about doing a joint thing together. So just one big Good Friday kind of Zoom, and then the same actually on Easter Sunday, just to get all of the sites together to do one on it and make it a little bit more of an event, and even do the equivalent of a flyer drop, except without leaving your house. So like that kind of publicising it a little bit and putting it out there as a service. So yeah, we're thinking on those lines. We had thought, and you guys can just barge in on this, of making it slightly more presentational in style. But actually, given what our good Prime Minister said yesterday, that might be a bit tricky. So we'll have to think a bit harder about how we do that in a way which is engaging and challenging, and will be good for us, and we'll celebrate Easter well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I think our goal has been to try and keep as much constant as possible. And so even the way we're doing small groups, keeping the same time, the way we're doing the Sundays, just a slight alteration on time, but only half an hour, everything consistent. We even ran a school of theology and a school of ministry on last Saturday through Zoom, and kept the same time. So I think that's been one of our top goals. Having said that, to then look at some options to kind of make, to mix it up a little bit. I think we're thinking, okay, Easter is a good time for that. I think our big challenge is the worship. I think Tim said that. We've had a few goes at it. It does distort. There's copyright issues as well. There's just numbers of things so the tech is an issue. But as Tim said, I'll be one of them. I was one of the first ones to say we need worship, because I can say that because I don't sort things out. And, I'm great with ideas. I just and then just have someone else to do it. So I think for us, that's probably going to be our biggest challenge. I think is, can we get some of our good worship leaders been able to help us, especially when we're doing those sort of meetings. So actually, if anyone's listening to this who has some tech advice on the sort of mics that you need to put in and stuff, that we are researching as we speak virtually to make that happen.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to step into some of this stuff and see how it grows. And I think Easter is a good launch pad for some new stuff that then that might find our way into normal Sundays as well. I think kind of the conversation has covered a bit about what we've done and what we're thinking going forward, and even other areas of church. Another thing we've been doing, just started out on, is like a short daily podcast that we've launched, and that's going to be going out just CCM daily, Monday to Friday. We'll do some devotionals on it some days and look at different things in church life, just as another touch point with the congregation. But I think we've covered most of what's going on at the moment. Do either of you have any other bits that you think are worth bringing into this conversation, or anyone listening in got any thoughts, or just type them in if so?
Yeah, I would say the thing that we've learned just quickly is to be very clear at what we're trying to achieve, and actually have an order of what is the most important. And I think that is just really, it's helpful in everyday life, in normal. But I think when you're doing things really quite responsive, and you've got quite a lot of voices with their favorite, what they really want. I think actually making a clear decision, what is your top goal you're trying to achieve, and then what actually you would love to put in and like worship, we want that in, but actually realised it had to come down our pecking order to start with in terms of. So that would be a comment.
So, and our top objective then was community in the first phase. Would you say, Colin?
Yeah, definitely, and that drove us not doing something centrally. It drove us empowering our site leaders. Yeah, it made a decision on that we have 3 or 4 people on the screen as opposed to just one person. Just numbers of decisions cascaded from that, which actually we had to park some things that are quite treasured to us, but actually you just couldn't achieve in the first round.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, as we settle in, and as the world kind of settles into this phase. I mean, if we assume we're in a 3-month zone of doing this, actually, as we bed in and as we feel like people are connecting with each other and community groups are up and moving, and then what else we then start patching in, really to build church life and to build discipleship over a slightly longer term. So it's a constant review, isn't it, really?
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think what we'll do is we've had half an hour chatting about this stuff. If anyone's got other questions or anything, feel free to just reach out to us. We can be contacted at hello@ccm.org.uk or hit broadcast up on Twitter or Facebook, and we're happy to help if we can. But I think through this time, just churches and leaders just talking to each other, sharing good ideas, and just copying what's working for other people to the extent that it would translate into our own contexts is just good. We can come together and serve each other like that. So I'm going to end this call now, but whatever you're doing, just keep at it, keep serving your people, and God will do stuff through it. So have a good week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.